Hello guys and welcome to my channel. My name is Zach Schofield. On this channel what we do is talk about everything investing. So today what we're going to do is we're going to be revisiting our series Why America Why. In this series what we do is we go and look at different parts of America and their political, social and economic policies, and we analyze these from the point of an outsider and from the point of an avid financial person. And what we're going to be doing, however, is we're going to be going a little bit broader than the American system, and what we're going to be doing is looking at a universal system that we all use for education. We're mainly going to be focusing on Australia, Canada, UK and Australia, because all those four are the main ones that have pretty much a very similar education system as a whole. So really I have a lot of issues when it comes to education system. I think it fails a lot of people around the world, and I think it doesn't really teach like what you actually need to know, especially when you're moving out of a house or you're moving out of home. You know, whenever you're leaving school or whatnot, you're really not prepared for what's actually to come. And I feel like this is really the main point of school. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going through a few my list of problems that I have with the education system as a whole, and then really what we can kind of do about it and how we can help. So my first problem that I have with the education system is that a lot of what you learn is not actually applicable to any real life situations. For example, if you were in Year 12 studying advanced mathematics, you're not really going to ever need to use anything such as, I don't know, matrices and whatnot, unless you're actually in a skilled degree such as engineering, which needs matrices. You know, there's a lot of stuff that you do in school that you learn and whatnot that actually is never going to be applicable to what you do in real life. And I feel like I would concede that a lot of what you actually do learn in school is applicable to real life, such as basic math and English and whatnot. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in school that you actually learn which is never applicable to what real life, you know, such as matrices, Pythag, all that stuff which actually a lot of people do learn. None of that is really applicable unless you go into a high skilled job, which is actually comes into my second point of schooling, is that it actually really targets that they want you to go a certain way. They want you to go from school to university to a full-time 9-to-5 job, then to retirement, and that's how you live your life. You know, school really tries to reinforce this cultural shift on you, which honestly I already hate. I wouldn't be able to do a 9-to-5 job at all. I really hate doing that stuff, you know. This is why I'm doing YouTube. This is why I'm doing other stuff like this, you know. I think a 9-to-5 job would be an absolutely horrible thing to do, just, you know, getting up every day doing the exact same thing. At the end of the day, you know, when you work your ass off 24/7, 40 hours a week for a company that doesn't care about you, that's kind of a bad place to be in. And I feel like a lot of people are in that. A lot of people go, you know, you're working 40 years of your life, you know, at a few jobs, you know, and a lot of people, they hate the job they go into. And I feel like that's an absolutely horrible thing to teach someone from they're young. You know, you go on a job, do well in school, do well in university, get a job that you want, hate it for 40 years, but do it for the money and then retire. I feel like that's is like a horrible thing to really teach, you know, your younger people. And actually what this does, it actually creates a divide between the smart subjects and the non-smart subjects. So for example, you know, you do your mathematics and your sciences and whatnot are kind of considered your more smarter subjects. And what it does is it kind of thinks of like, oh yeah, you know, if you're doing math, you're doing all that stuff, you're going to be smart, you're going to succeed and all that stuff. But if you're doing arts and you're more of a creative person, you're not going to succeed. And I feel like this is a really stupid point that kind of school reinforces in people. And I know it's not actually trying to say that, but at the end of the day it does say that to a lot of people, and that's just because they're following a curriculum that they're provided. And I feel like at the end of the day, I feel like a curriculum isn't tailored to what actually people need. For example, I know in Australia and in America what happens a lot is people often get left behind when they're studying at very young ages, and that just builds up over time. So then just because they haven't mastered the basics, what they do is they can't actually do anything further on when they're actually, you know, in the final years of school. I've found this a lot. So I used to tutor mathematics from high school kids, and what I used to find is that when they were in year 11 and 12, they struggled on all the really basic stuff, and then because they struggled on all the basic stuff, they weren't actually able to replicate what they should be able to do, and then they weren't able to do the harder stuff. And I feel like that's a really important thing, that actually why the education system is failing a lot of people. You know, when you have an education system which just follows a curriculum which is for the middleman, you know, when you have people that are smarter than that and then people that are less smarter than that, it fails both ends of the spectrum, because your more smarter people get bored in class. What they're going to do is just going to muck around, you know, do stuff like that. And then what you have is your less smarter people, they obviously don't understand, so then they're going to muck around, you know, and then they're going to feel bad about themselves because they feel like they're dumb. You know, it just creates a whole big massive snowball effect when the curriculum actually is just based on that, you know, middleman. You know, and I really feel like there should be something that's sorted out. And I understand it's a hard position, but a curriculum just isn't what actually is needed, you know. If teachers follow the curriculum to the point, which is what they're meant to do, it doesn't work, because you have these people that are left behind and then they don't understand, and then in the future they're not able to do what they want. Like for me, I genuinely do believe that actually the majority of people have actually able to do like a decent level of math, especially in their year 11 and 12, and actually pass and do very well on it. Like genuinely, I believe that the reason why people don't do well in math when they in the year 11 and 12 is because they don't understand the basics, either that, or because they haven't put in the work. It's either one of those two problems. And it's when I did tutoring, I always found that the majority of the time it was the fact that they didn't understand the basics. You know, if I did say I was tutoring a year 10er, which is, I think that's a sophomore in America, it's the third year before you graduate. So we graduate in year 12, then year 11, then year 10. I think that's sophomore in America. I think it's one above junior. But so what happens is I found that a lot of people just don't understand the basics, especially when they're in year 10 and above. And because they don't understand the basics, what they aren't able to do is do the harder stuff. So what I do is I really bring them back to, say, year 7, year 8 math, which is kind of, you know, demoralizing for them. I've had a kid cry once because I told him that. But what it does, it actually helps them a lot. Like, you know, when they understand that basics and they're really fast and really quick at doing like 6 times 6, 36. You know, if you do that really quickly and you're able to actually just be fast and really good at it, you know, what happens is you're actually able to be better at the harder stuff. So my third point is that the curriculum doesn't actually teach people what they need to know. So this is kind of the opposite of my first point, which is that they teach you stuff you don't know, but then they neglect to teach you the stuff that you do need to know, such as taxes, you know, how to invest, how to actually not work a 9-to-5 job 24/7, and then just retire off that, how to retire early, you know, stuff like that. And I think genuinely this is a massive learning point that schools everywhere should be really teaching. Especially I feel like investing is a massive point of how you know, retire early, you know, do all that stuff. Especially your taxes, you know, other than going to tax, you can do it yourselves, you can figure it out. But a lot of people aren't actually able to or wanting to, you know, go out of their way and study all this stuff. Personally, for the future, this is actually what I want to do, and kind of YouTube is a stepping point towards this. What I would like to do in the future is, once YouTube takes off, I would like to go around touring Australia and going into year 11 and 12, so the final 2 years of school. And what I would like to do is go around and then teach them about their investing habits and what actually you should do. Because really the most important time when you're investing is when you're young. The more money you have invested when you're young, it compounds more and it's able to be worth a hell of a lot more when you're older, be able to retire earlier. For example, if you just, at the age of 20, if you just invest $100 every month for this until you retire, that's worth $500,000. Like, that's a hell of a lot of money, especially when you retire, especially when we're thinking of when a lot of people, you can't retire unless you have at least $1 million. And even when you retire, when you have $1 million, it might not be enough, especially considering some people's lifestyle. You know, I would really love to, in the future, just to go around teaching people how they can invest their money and how they can actually properly retire, and how that system of working the 9-to-5 job isn't actually the way they need to go. They can, you know, figure out the way of doing it. They don't have to work a 9-to-5 job. They can go into sales. They can work on commission. They can go in real estate. You know, they can do all that other stuff. And, you know, just because you aren't good at math or science, Just because you aren't good at math or science doesn't mean that you aren't going to succeed in life. It just doesn't mean that. It means that you are more suited towards the creative side. Even right now, with the invention of the internet and whatnot, being a creative person has never been more like, it's been the best thing to do, really. You can just go online, you can sell, you know, any talent that you have. For example, you can be a creative designer online and you can create thumbnails for people on YouTube. You can, you know, edit videos. You can do all that stuff. You can sell what you actually are good at, and you're able to market that to everyone, because there's always a need for that. There's always people out there who don't know how to edit. There's always people out there who don't know how to make thumbnails. And I really think right now is really the best time, if you're creative or anything like that, is really to get out there and to market yourself and make the most amount of money. You know, right now it is flooded with people, but you know, if you're really good at what you do, if you're really good at drawing, for example, you know, you might be able to be I don't know, like a stencil artist or something like that. You can do it online, you can market it, you know, all that stuff. Well, obviously this video right now isn't about how we can solve the problem of education, but it's more about how I feel what's wrong with our education system, and more or less kind of different paths that people can take. Because, you know, the education system isn't going to change as a whole, and I don't think this is ever going to change, at least for a very long time, until this, because there's really no one-cut solution for this. You know, you kind of can't teach one kid's doing one thing in one grade, one kid's the other thing. You know, it doesn't work like that, which is why the curriculum actually is in place. And I understand that, but what it does is it means people are left behind, or they're too far ahead if they're too smart. You know, it doesn't really help. So yeah, that's kind of my views on this. And then even when someone's left behind, it's actually really bad, and then often they're a detriment to society, not because of them, but just because the education system has failed them. You know, it's actually been proven by a lot of statistics that if someone has a better education, then they're less likely to go into crime, and then they're more likely to contribute towards your country's GDP. You know, likely to be below the poverty line. You know, education makes a huge difference when it comes to all this stuff, but the education system constantly fails people, and I feel like this should be a massive wake-up call to a lot of ministers and whatnot, where they see that, especially in America, where the education system is even worse than Australia. Australia has quite a good education system in comparison to a lot of other places, but I don't know, America it fails even more people than Australia. In Australia, at least you have to, you know, at year 10, you have to do at least 10 years of schooling. Yeah guys, that is going to be all for me today. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I'll see you next time.